hence what we call our I-WIN network, the International Worldwide Innovation Network that we use to promote globally that doing business in California is a good idea. I think I've spoken to what the iHubs do, so I'll keep moving. Next unit that I'll talk about is small business. So small business obviously is always going to be a critical area of focus at GoBiz. We know that if you're going to grow any economy, if you're going to grow jobs anywhere, you have to have a thriving small business climate and a thriving cadre of small businesses all around the state. When you think about small businesses, including sole proprietorships, there are millions of such businesses around California. We have a saying in our shop that if each one of those just hired one more person, think about the impact that would have on California's economy. And so we think in a very purposeful way about what it takes to help small businesses be successful. We concentrate in a number of areas to try to help do that. Small businesses need lots of help just to get their idea translated into a business. How do I create a small business from a permitting perspective? How do I think about it from a financing perspective? How do I think about it from a site selection perspective? How do I market my business? How do I hire talented employees? How do I navigate the marketplace in a way that can help my small business be successful? We have dedicated resources in our shop, and we work in partnership with lots of organizations, both public and private, all across California, to try to help ensure that there is that we are helping to foster a thriving network of resources that are available to small businesses to be successful. And of course, we are the small business advocate inside of the state government organization. So we work with our partner agencies all across the state government to ensure that they are achieving their objectives around small business participation in the contracting and the procurement that they do. The state of California spends a lot of money, and to the extent that we can help ensure that small businesses around our state are benefiting from that spend, that's good for those businesses, but it's also good for the state because there's tremendous ingenuity and capability that exists in our small business community across California. So to the extent that we're tapping into that and using it in the context of public projects, California is better off. So we believe it's vitally important that we work as the small business advocate to ensure effective and broad small business participation in our public business as well. All right, I'm working through these. We're getting through them one at a time. All right, so permitting, our permitting assistance group is something that is very important to our organization. If you were to ask me, as I'm sure you will, so what are the things that we need to do to improve California's business climate? How do we improve the business experience? How do we translate that into tangible growth in our economy and in businesses and jobs across the state? Continual improvement in the regulatory climate in California is essential if we're going to achieve those goals. And so our permitting unit works sort of at a tactical level in terms of individualized permit assistance. So we've got a company, we've got a business, we've got an entity that's trying to navigate a permitting or regulatory challenge, and they need help, as most businesses do. Most businesses, especially small and medium-sized businesses. We know that large enterprises have the resources where they can hire folks that are experts in helping them to navigate regulatory matters. Although not always. Sometimes they also need our assistance, which we're happy to provide where we can. But more often it's about medium and small businesses that don't have the wherewithal and they don't have the resources to hire folks, and that's where we step in and try to help them navigate through those regulatory challenges. So we do provide that individual permitting assistance that is important to those types of companies. But we're also looking more broadly at regulatory modernization. How do we create, in the aggregate, a more effective and more efficient process? You know, there can be debates, and it's up to you all to have policy debates about what are California standards, what should the regulations be. But once those regulations are on the books, the question is how effectively or ineffectively are we at the state, regional, and local level executing those regulations relative to what businesses need to get through those processes, to get their permits, to get into compliance, and get on with their business. We believe at GoBiz that it's our responsibility to try to help make that process, to the greatest extent we can, as transparent and as expeditious as possible. We want businesses to get into compliance, but to do it fast and to be able to move on so they can go about the business of doing their business. And so there are a number of ways that we are looking at that. We, of course, have the Cal Gold program, which is a technology platform that we have had inside of our shop and continue to iterate. We continue to improve the quality of it. It's intended to be a place where businesses can go online. We're very proud that they can go on their desktop, they can go on their mobile device, and they can use the CalGold tool to talk about what kind of business are they, where are they located, and to get a sense of what are some of the permits, what are some of the regulations, what are some of the agencies and departments that they're going to have to interface with to get into compliance based on their business type and based on their location. It's a very effective tool. It's a very important mechanism that's out there that gives those businesses a resource that they can use quickly to try to get at those questions and get at answers to those questions. So we're pleased about CalGold and where it is, but we also need to note that CalGold also ultimately, in terms of the user relationship and how powerful of a tool it is, while it's a very important and useful front door into the various agencies, the myriad permits that they may have to procure, it also will only ultimately be as effective as those agencies that are behind the tool and the technology that they're using to make an even easier experience once the businesses come through the front door of CalGold. So we have much more work to do at the state, regional, and local level to use technology to upgrade and to modernize how those individual agencies work and how they allow that individual business owner to access their permitting regimes. And so we have much work to do, and I think it's an ongoing area of focus and an important one, to the extent that we can continue to make, across the state landscape, permitting and regulatory processes faster, easier, more intuitive, more powerful in terms of the tools that are available to business. That will get at that goal that I'm talking about. Let's get them into compliance, but let's do it as fast and as easy as possible so they can go about their business. And that's what we're endeavoring to do. I might also mention that it's not just about the technology, but it's also about the culture inside of the state government, the regional government, and local government. We're so proud to be working with such a great leader in Secretary Maribel Batcher that oversees the Government Operations Agency. Under her agency, she has things like the Department of Technology, she has the Department of General Services, she has CalHR, and she is a really smart, really well-experienced leader, and those are the type of people that she has on her team. And we're working very carefully with her as she, I think, works very deliberately on bringing in new technology to try to help modernize government operations, but also to look at the culture of how new state employees or existing state employees are being onboarded, are being trained, are being rewarded and recognized for doing things that are more innovative and are more thoughtful about how they manage their work. We had a specific initiative working with her organization where we brought in the Lean Six Sigma process. Many of you may know it's a well-established private sector business process optimization methodology. We brought in that tool. We brought in folks that were experts in training on that. We identified many agencies around the state where they were willing to step up in project teams, look at a particular process inside of their organization, go through the Six Sigma methodology process to find ways to improve in terms of time, in terms of efficiency, in terms of customer experience, how that existing process could be improved. It was a really successful pilot project that we did in collaboration between GoBiz and the GovOps agency, and we want to continue to build on that because we think to the extent that we are catalyzing that type of modernization about process and culture inside the organization, along with technology, that's as we see, certainly part of the roadmap of significant improvement to California's regulatory reality and perception. So we're pleased to have that partnership and something we're going to continue to work on carefully. All right, I've got a few more, and then I'm done. Those are all the units that are inside of GoBiz, where we have a staff that are working across those different departments within our shop that I just mentioned. There are a couple of notable programs that also report into our office that I'm going to touch on very briefly, and then I'll be done. First is the iBank, the Infrastructure and Economic Development Bank, and inside of that we have a particular focus, which is our green energy and export financing program, and also the Small Business Loan Guarantee Program. The iBank, of course, was created to provide public resources to try to help create financing for infrastructure projects all across the state, both through public agencies and with nonprofits. And so the iBank is a very successful organization in being both a direct lender to those entities, being a conduit bond issuer, bonds of all kinds that they utilize. We have extremely strong leadership over the iBank, folks that have had long and successful careers in public and private finance, and they're doing a wonderful job in terms of building the pipeline of loan and bond opportunities to try to help support infrastructure financing all across California. The Clean Finance Center that was announced earlier this year pays particular attention to green, clean energy projects. We know that one of the ways that California's economy is going to continue to grow well into the future is because we have established such leading policies and a culture in our state as it relates to tackling climate change and improving the success of low carbon and zero carbon energy sources, transportation, and processes of all kinds. That is also creating tremendous business opportunities all across California. We want to have, through the Clean Finance Center, financing mechanisms to help support and stimulate some of those initiatives all across California. And I can attest to many of those that I've been able to see across my travels. There clearly is a building pipeline of green and clean energy projects all across California, and we want to stimulate that to the greatest extent we can, and that certainly is the predicate of the Clean Finance Center. In addition to that is the Small Business Loan Guarantee Program that isn't focused on any particular type of business. It's more about ensuring that for small businesses out there that because of the nature of their business, because of where they are in their life cycle or for other reasons, aren't readily bankable by traditional lending mechanisms that are out there. So the Small Business Loan Guarantee Program, which of course is a federal program that we execute here at the state level through a series of financial development corporations across the state, we apply those resources to provide a loan guarantee so those lenders on the ground can have some backup so that they can reach into those small businesses that aren't otherwise getting commercial loans but nevertheless need capital. They need capital to get started, to grow, to hire people, to improve their operations, to be successful small businesses. And in this world where business models are changing and are so dynamic all the time, there needs to be a whole range of tools at the private level, at the public level, at the nonprofit level, and I'm pleased to say I'm starting to see lots of different models that are emerging all across the state to provide access to credit and capital to business types of all kinds that want to grow. And we're starting to see real success in that, and the Small Business Loan Guarantee Program is certainly part of that success. Moving on to the California Film Commission, which is a wonderful entity. There's no doubt that another one of the distinguishing characteristics of California is that we are the global home of film and entertainment. We need to continue to be that. We believe that that is not only vital because of the economic contribution that it makes directly to the state in the tens of billions of dollars, over $30 billion of economic impact that it has on our state, but also because it is the greatest marketing engine that I can think of for California as a brand across the country and around the world. The fact that we are so well known for film and entertainment, it is something that helps inspire California's brand and inspire folks that want to be here, operate here, and invest here. So both the direct and the indirect benefits, California's global leadership position in film and entertainment is critical, which is why the governor was pleased to work with you all in the legislature to substantially improve and enhance the film production tax credit. Of course, we've taken that up from over tripled the size of that program, so it's up to $1.5 billion of film production tax credits that will be allocated over the next 5 years through the Film Commission, again with outstanding leadership overseeing that organization. And again, the anecdotal feedback that we're starting to see from the industry is they're thrilled that this additional resource is existing so that California can continue to be a place where film production of all kinds is robust and thriving. So we're very excited for that program and for the other services and resources that are provided through the Film Commission. That able team down there is wonderful about site selection, about working on permitting issues, around working on workforce development so that we can continue to employ many, many thousands of people across California. And by the way, across California, we certainly all think of Hollywood and Southern California, which is indeed the core, but this is a business that spans all across our state, and we want to ensure that continues to be the case. So the staff that we have at the Film Commission is working hard on a statewide proliferation of film and entertainment, and we've got great momentum and something we continue to be excited about. All right, and now last but certainly not least is Visit California, the state's travel and tourism promotion authority. This, of course, the structure of it is that it's a nonprofit that is funded overwhelmingly by an industry assessment. So their budget was just increased to $100 million annually. it's important to note that that is an industry self-assessment. There's just a very small amount of state money that goes into administering this program. And yet, through that industry participation at that level, we like to think, the best travel and tourism promotional entity in the country. Tremendous leadership overseeing that organization, and the trajectory of the economy as it relates to the hospitality industry broadly. Last year, well over $100 billion, and that number is moving up and to the right. Not just because of domestic travel, so we have lots of folks from around the country that want to visit California for lots of reasons, but here again, that international connectivity is critical. Take China, where there is an incredible amount of growth in the wealth and in that country, and folks that want to come to the United States for travel. California gets over 40% of the market share nationally of that Chinese traveler, which is wonderful, both because it's very lucrative for our business here in the state, but also, and I'll close by saying, because what it does is it reinforces that really unique and sort of special alchemy that is California. The fact that we have folks that want to be here to take advantage of our business, to take advantage of our resources, to take advantage of all of the wonderful amenities and the beautiful landscapes and the people and the culture that exists in California is not just a driver of our hospitality industry, it's embedded in the success of our economy. We're starting to see real growth. Just this morning, there was a report, final statistics of the 2014 job numbers released by the National Bureau of Labor and Statistics, that shows that California, by a pretty wide margin, #1 in the nation in 2014 in terms of private sector job creation. So we have real momentum that we're continuing to build, we hope, through all of our endeavors. We have a lot more to do, but we're in a good place, and we appreciate your support. Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that last statistic. I think it is important that we continue to highlight the growth that's happening here in California as relates to jobs and the economy. The last slide, Visit California, we know that's working. And I say it facetiously, but I read that even the governor of Florida is visiting California now. And so part of, I think, our discussions here are to ensure that we certainly welcome those individuals to California, but not the opportunity that they are seeking out here. And so that's why these conversations are critical. So I'm going to open it up. Thank you very much for the presentation. I'm going to open it up for questions. I know Mr. Gibson, Assemblymember Gibson, asked to speak, and so I'll give him the floor, and we'll work our way around.
By all means.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. I appreciate your presentation. I think it was certainly informative, and I'm glad to know that the governor's office, through your leadership, is doing a great job. I want to also say thank you very much. When I was a city council member, which was before I was sworn in, I wrote a letter in support of the film's tax credit. City of Carson, you received a robust support from the film industry, filming in the city, where I used to be on the city council, and my nephews are tired of leaving California and staying in other parts outside of California because that's where they work. Now they can benefit by staying home, and this tax credit is actually working, and I'm glad to see that. One of the things that I am concerned with, and you can maybe shed some light, Nissan Corporation, it wasn't under this administration, but Nissan left, went to Tennessee because of the regulations here in California. And it could have been certainly based on some other governors from other states here lowering them to those states. We also have Toyota leaving California and going to Texas. That's 5,000 jobs in the region in which I now represent. How does the governor's office look in terms of trying to make it advantageous and more supportive to keep these large corporations here in California? Because I'm of the mindset, if we don't work in a very proactive, not suggesting that the governor's office is doing this, but if we don't work to try to look at regulations to keep those jobs and those corporations here, they're going to leave and devastate our economy and reverse some of the things like the film tax credits and other kinds of things you're putting in place. It's going to unravel that, and I'm very concerned. We just heard from individuals here who's doing a remarkable job in terms of with the workforce investment, putting people from re-entering out of prison to work, those who have been out of the job market for a long time, being able to try to replace those into a job market. But then we have corporations possibly leaving, and governors are coming here taking some of those corporations. So what is the governor doing regarding regulations to make it comfortable and more beneficial to those businesses staying and remaining here in California?
Sure. It's a great question, and and we certainly agree. And as I mentioned in my remarks, and I'll reiterate that we take every business investment decision in the state personally inside of the administration. We engage to the greatest extent we can in those individual circumstances to reach the leaders of those respective companies and find out what's going on. How can we help? What are the issues that you're facing? What are the resources that we can bring to bear to ensure that they have confidence that staying in California, growing in California, is in their economic best interests? And while you certainly have cited a couple of examples where companies made decisions, nevertheless, to move operations, we also have many, many examples, and frankly, far more examples to the contrary, where businesses have chosen to stay here, have chosen to grow here. I think that by establishing our office, and not to overemphasize the importance of us, but certainly because we are becoming much more well-known as an entity in the administration that has great support from the legislature to provide resources of all kinds, businesses have been coming to us more and more saying, we have business challenges or opportunities that we need to talk about, and now we have a point of contact that we can work through to see if we can create an arrangement that gives us what we need. That's why we've been, I think, far more successful at attracting and retaining businesses, which is why we lead the nation in private sector job creation, which is why our unemployment rate, when I started this job, was north of 11%. It's at 6.9% today, and why we've got tremendous velocity in lots of economic sectors. So we have positive movement, and I think it's because we've been much more available and much more responsive to the needs of businesses to ensure that they're going to have a partner in the state to try to help them figure out what are the economics and what are the advantages of staying. But finally, there's no question that we have to be very focused on what I call the cost-benefit analysis that all businesses have to go through all the time about any investment decision. What's the cost-benefit analysis of doing business in California? The benefit side of that equation is very high, right? Our workforce is an advantage. The size of our market, the entrepreneurial and innovation capacity that we have here, international connectivity and the like, those are all wonderful benefits that we must reinforce collectively. The cost side of that equation, whether it be on the tax side, whether it be on the energy side, or whether it be on the regulatory side, is something that we pay very much attention to. So in your question about regulations, as I elaborated on in my presentation, we do have strategies and mechanisms that we are working on, but there's no question. Progress has to be made for us to continue to be a place where that regulatory friction is minimized so that businesses can operate at the pace of business in our state and avail themselves of those benefits that I talked about.
Thank you very much. I have several questions about the EB-5 programs. And in particular, with respect to the regional center project, I think earlier you mentioned that the state is doing several things, one of which is to promote these EB-5 programs, and number two, we are actually certifying these TEAs or targeted employment areas. Now, with respect to what else we can do as a state, can we look at infrastructure projects, for example, or P3 projects in connection with, let's say, building bridges and highways and the like? That's number one. What are the bottlenecks, for example, if we cannot do that? And number two is with respect to the TEAs, the targeted employment areas. I understand that currently the process takes into effect a 12-track census data. And what's the rationale behind that? Is there a way that we could flex that a little bit, provided a little more flexibility, for example, to include larger areas? Because that seems to be a bottleneck in itself in attracting, let's say, or creating more areas eligible for the program. And so those are the two major questions, and I have more depending on the length of your answers.
Okay, so your first question about could EB-5 be used to help support infrastructure projects around the state in a public-private basis, I think that's an outstanding opportunity. I think there's no question about it. And I think that we have a number of regional centers, as you know, across across California. I was just visited by a group this week that has some really interesting ideas as it relates to just that very topic of how EB-5 investment could be channeled potentially in a public-private way, whether it be with state agencies, with regional or local agencies, to identify infrastructure needs and to see if some of the EB-5 investment that they've been able to garner could be channeled into those types of partnerships. I think it's a wonderful idea that should be explored, quite honestly, because I do think we have so much interest and demand globally for investing in California that if it can be parlayed into helping to create a longer-term public benefit because it's supporting infrastructure development around the state, that sounds like a win-win scenario that should be pursued carefully. Now, of course, we always have to ensure that that federal and state regulations are complied with, and I think it probably is a longer offline conversation to talk about specific opportunities and where those, what the opportunities and perhaps some of the restrictions might be. But in terms of the concept, absolutely.
Would GoBiz be a vehicle, for example, or a clearinghouse in that regard? No.
Well, I think that we certainly can provide support and connectivity to those types of opportunities. Through the course of our work through the CalBiz unit, they've become experts at really understanding what's happening across the state. Where are there local communities that have opportunity sites where they want to create development, where they want to stimulate commercial activity, but where some infrastructure needs would have to be met in order to have projects like that come to fruition. Our team has become well aware of that just through the course of their work. So I think that for us to be, again, a point of coordination and create connectivity between matchmaking, if you will, between investors or potential investors and where those needs are on the ground. I think we sort of do that now through the course of our work, and I think it's a good thing for us to continue to do. As it relates to your second question about how we arrived at the 12 census tract method. And so, as you know, there's federal guidelines about specific requirements around what constitutes an eligible area for investment. There are federal parameters about the state of that community, of that particular community, if it's a disadvantaged community that meets certain federally prescribed thresholds, about reaching into communities of need to try to help stimulate economic activity. Through a lot of experience that we've had over the years in administering the certification process, if you will, of the TEA, we arrived at that census tract number because we felt it was adequately expansive to allow for flexibility for applications, but certainly well within the parameters that are prescribed by the federal statutes. So we felt that we hit a bit of a sweet spot there in terms of maximizing our opportunity that's allowable under the law. And I would say that we're having real growth in the number of applications that we're seeing from folks. So I'm not sure that it's a bottleneck, but at the same time, again, and perhaps we could talk about this more offline, if you have experience or others do that we feel that there are ways that we have to revisit creating more eligibility or participation in the program, of course, we're always open to that input.
And final question quickly. Is there a need for the state to, let's say, conduct a report on the effectiveness of these programs, or particularly these EB-5 regional center programs? Because I know that the state of Minnesota has currently, or actually has completed doing some kind of study to indicate the impact of these programs on the state as a whole, as far as, the economic impacts as well as recommendations. Is there a need for the state of California to do something similar in light of the fact that we have so many of these regional centers? Last time I checked was 156 points.
Yeah, well, I think having data and information is always good. I think it's always great to have information that allow us to manage our processes better. I would say that, California, because of our size, because of our scope and the diversity, as you mentioned, well over 150 of these regional centers, assembling that kind of effort would be really, really complicated to get. And because there is such diversity around the state, I wouldn't want us to go down a path of trying to prescribe or define how the program should be unfolding in California. We like the idea that there's a lot of localized, regionalized innovation and creativity that's happening in the program. So we're always mindful in our office to not overly hover over that in a way of having perhaps the unintended effect of complicating matters. I think I'd rather let the program continue to flourish, but certainly to keep an eye on what the progress is.
Thank you, Councilmember Chow. I know Ms. Brown had a follow-up question.
Right on that same vein, I wanted to just talk about, there's a major company in California that downsized 500 employees. They're going to hire the same number of EB-5 participants. How do we keep the supplanting going forward from GoBiz? How do you look at that? Because if someone's saying, oh, well, we can go hire we get rid of these and go hire the same number from another country, what does that do to our employment?
Well, there's no question, ma'am, that we have to be, and we are very concerned about job growth in state. And we don't want to support, directly or indirectly, the outsourcing of our jobs because we're supporting folks that are trying to downsize California jobs in exchange for folks that are coming from around the world. So I think we have to be very, very careful and concerned about that. At the exact same time, California, as I talked about at length in my remarks, is a global destination, and that is absolutely to our benefit. And in this globalized economy that we're in, California is one of the winners in the fact that folks all around the world are engaging in what has already become and will continue to be an international economy. So that's a very difficult balancing act to think about. And I don't have a perfect answer for you other than to say that we are trying to work through our workforce development efforts and through other mechanisms to ensure that our workers in California, whether they be youngsters that are coming through the education system now or adult workers that need to find ways to get retrained, to get upskilled so they can be more competitive and more successful in the economy that we have and where we're headed. That's why I said at the beginning that workforce development is embedded in the way we do our work, exactly because we are indeed so concerned that to ensure that we have every opportunity for our California folks to get the jobs that they need.
Well, in the article that I'm referencing, this company said that the workers that they will be bringing in aren't up to speed yet, but they will be bringing them in to replace them as well. So I think that GoBiz should actually look at what our companies are doing so that we don't get into that kind of, since you're saying that we don't want to do that, that our California employees will still have jobs.
Well, I appreciate the suggestion, and we'd be happy, by the way, to speak with you offline about it. I don't know the individual circumstance that you're referring to. I'd like to know what that is. As I say, we're always going to be happy to engage directly and see what we can do to be helpful in that individual circumstance. But the point that you're making more generally is understood. Thank you.
Thank you.